As we have seen more than a few times over the years, nailing down the right length can be a surprisingly tricky thing for games to do. Even the best of games have often deemed to be either a bit too long or a bit too short, while those that are particularly brief or lengthy can find themselves on the receiving end of stronger criticism. That's why you can never quite take games that know exactly how long they need to be for granted. Here we'll be talking about a few such games. Portal 2. With a main story about 8 to 9 hours long, Portal 2 is nearly thrice as long as its predecessor, but just like its predecessor, it feels like the perfect length. Valve's ingenious puzzler sequel throws in plenty of new mechanics and design ideas on top of the first game's foundations, and over the course of its meticulously chiseled runtime, it gets absolutely everything out of all of its best ideas. Ori and the Will of the Wisps. And a dozen hours long, at the very least, Ori and the Will of the Wisps isn't exactly a brief game, but that 12-hour runtime absolutely flies by when you're actually playing the game yourself. Your magical journey through this game is packed full of varied biomes, boss fights, set pieces, slick traversal and combat, stellar platforming, gorgeous visuals, and much more. Every minute of the experience feels earned. What Remains of Edith Finch. This is one of those games that you can and should finish in a single sitting. Widely considered to be among the best walking sims around, What Remains of Edith Finch can be played to completion in just a couple of hours, or 3 hours if you really want to stretch it. And though that runtime might seem a bit too brief on paper, in those 2 hours, the Giant Sparrow developed title manages to leave an indelible impression. Pikmin 3. Given how fun Pikmin 3's core gameplay and design are, there's a good chance that it won't outstay its welcome for you even if you're attempting a completionist run. But an average playthrough typically lasting 13 to 14 hours feels particularly well curated. Taking players to multiple locations and letting you play as several different characters, Pikmin 3's pacing never lets it down. Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice. A story-driven, 8-hour-long cinematic action-adventure experience can be hard to find as the industry's obsession with larger and longer games continues, but Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice is ample proof that those experiences have an undeniable appeal. 7 years on from its launch, and with its sequel right around the corner, Ninja Theory's action-adventure title feels like a perfectly handcrafted journey with next to no fat needing trimming. Resident Evil 2, 2019. Survival horror games can be particularly sensitive to changes in length and scope, but Resident Evil 2's 2019 remake has all of that down to a science. Regardless of which of the two characters you're playing as, Resident Evil 2's 8 to 10 hour campaign feels like an immaculately paced thrill ride from the first second to the last. Even though there's a little bit too much overlapping between both characters' campaigns, it never feels like the game is dragging on. Bugsnax. Clocking in at a minimum of 8 hours, Young Horse's exploration-driven adventure game remains a fan favorite close to 4 years on from its launch. By design, it's very much a straightforward and easygoing experience, which means it doesn't have a ton of mechanical depth, but that never feels like an issue throughout its runtime, thanks to a solid variety of areas to explore and Bugsnax to find and catch. Inside. Indie studio Playdead has a perfect 2-for-2 track record when it comes to nailing the length of its games. Just like Limbo before it, Inside is a very brief game, clocking in at just 3 to 4 hours in length, but boy does it make the most of every single one of those minutes. It's a haunting, unforgettable experience that perfectly combines simplistic mechanics, minimalist design and visuals, and wordless storytelling. Celeste. Celeste is an unmissable classic for a multitude of reasons. Whether you're looking for a spectacularly designed, pixel-perfect 2D platformer or an incredibly told, deeply moving story, Celeste is an instant classic in more ways than one. It is of course a densely packed game, brimming with optional challenges, which means you can pour multiple dozens of hours into it if you wish, but with a briskly paced main story that lasts about 9 to 10 hours, it feels like it lasts just the right amount of time. Shadow of the Colossus. Talking in terms of pure real estate, Shadow of the Colossus is obviously a much larger game than many others mentioned in this feature, and sure enough, completionists can get plenty out of the game, even if its main story can be played through in as little as 7 to 8 hours. But regardless of how you play the game, every second of exploring its desolately beautiful world and beholding its magnificent eponymous colossi is an unforgettable experience. Dishonored 2. Again, Dishonored 2 is one of those games that you can lose yourself in for multiple dozens of hours, depending on how you play. But if you're looking for an immaculately paced experience, then you can roll credits on it in as little as 15 to 16 hours. Dishonored 2 is still an easy recommendation. It helps, of course, that it's deeply replayable thanks to the choice of 2 different playable protagonists with their own unique playstyles. Uncharted 2: Among Thieves. It goes without saying that Naughty Dog is the master of the art of crafting reasonably long single-player narrative-driven experiences, and no game serves as a better example of that than Uncharted 2. You can blow through this blockbuster romp in just about 10 to 11 hours, and every second you spend with it earns its place in the game, from excellently written and performed cutscenes and character interactions to adrenaline-fueled combat, platforming, and cinematic set pieces. This is a game that values your time immensely. Metal Gear Solid 3: Snake Eater. As the Metal Gear franchise went on, its installments started getting longer and arguably more overwrought, but Metal Gear Solid 3 represented a point in time where it was the furthest away it could be from those issues. Following Naked Snake's 16 to 18-hour journey through the jungle, taking on different members of the Cobra unit, and unraveling the many mysteries of the story is an absolutely captivating experience that still hasn't lost its luster today, 2 decades on from release. Hopefully the upcoming remake does it justice. Firewatch. It's difficult to point to many walking sims or adventure games that are more memorable than Camp Santo's stellar Firewatch. Just 4 to 5 hours in length, this incredible first-person adventure title boasts a captivating story, masterful writing, compelling performances, and a rich, wonderfully developed cast of characters, all coming together in an experience where it's impossible not to find yourself glued to the screen from beginning to end. The Last of Us.
You'll find him there, still trying to save the world. Good luck with that.
The Last of Us may very well be one of the most perfectly paced and immaculately crafted single-player experiences of all time. No second of the game feels wasted. Every single one of its arcs are told perfectly. Each character is spectacularly developed and portrayed, and the gameplay strikes a perfect balance between horror, stealth, and pulsating combat. At about 14 to 15 hours long, The Last of Us makes every moment count. That's all for now. If you enjoy what you saw, please hit the like button. And if you're new to the channel, now is a great time to subscribe. We upload brand new videos every single day. After subscribing, don't forget to enable all notifications by clicking the bell icon. Thanks for watching this video, and we'll see you next time, right here on Gaming Bolt.